A News4JAX I-Team update on the migrant flights from Florida. On the heels of a federal lawsuit filed against Governor Ron DeSantis, the state of Florida and other state officials, DeSantis' challenger in the governor's race, Democrat Charlie Crist, held a virtual meeting with leaders in the Hispanic community today. They allege the migrants were misled before boarding the planes, which they say is a violation of the law.
People working for the DeSantis administration wrote, printed, and handed out fake pamphlets full of lies to trick them onto the plane. They were targeted with questions about whether they wanted to go to Florida.
Gubernatorial candidate Charlie Crist says the migrants who were flown to Martha's Vineyard were lured with a chance for a good job and a better life. He says the money from the Florida Department of Transportation, which now totals more than $1.5 million, could have been used to help teachers or first responders, calling the unannounced flights a failed political stunt.
They think this is good for them politically, and I think it's a disaster for DeSantis, frankly. What he's done is shown the crass nature of his character, his willingness to use women and children and other people as pawns in his political charade.
If this isn't human trafficking, I don't know what is, because you are luring people under false pretenses onto a plane, thinking that they're going somewhere which they're not going.
State Senator Annette Taddeo, a Democrat now running for Congress, says the migrants were told they were being flown to Boston and says they were seeking asylum under international law, and they either had work authorization or could get it. Massachusetts State Representative Carlos Gonzalez says the governor is using the pain and suffering of the Latino community for his gain.
This country was built by immigrants, and to take children of God, when you believe in Christian values, to use as human pawns is just unfathomable, especially from our leadership coming from the top.
In a lawsuit which seeks class action status in a Massachusetts federal court, lawyers for the plaintiffs allege the trip, which DeSantis took credit for, violated constitutional protections. Lawyers are also asking the court to block DeSantis and others named in the lawsuit from inducing immigrants to travel across state lines by fraud and misrepresentation.
The enticement to go somewhere because of better jobs or opportunities falls squarely in the definition of trafficking.
The governor's office gave us a statement on the federal lawsuit in which they say it's opportunistic that activists would use immigrants for political theater. It goes on to say the transportation of the immigrants to Martha's Vineyard was done on a voluntary basis. The immigrants were homeless, hungry, and abandoned, and these activists didn't care about them then. Florida's program gave them a fresh start in a sanctuary state, and these individuals opted to take advantage of chartered flights to Massachusetts. We also reached out to the governor's office specifically regarding what Charlie Crist had to say about the flights in his news conference this morning. The governor's office said that because it was in response to a political campaign, any response would have to come from the governor's campaign team. We are waiting on their response.